Money is the spine which holds things together, and you have to make money constantly to sort of stay in the same place.
Wow.
So VCs में ही rate of rejection is so high, much higher than what founders think. आपको license लेना पड़ता है पहले सेवी से, तो वो भी सबको नहीं मिलता है. I would say that the Indian consumer wants value for money.
Still affordability is key.
वो जो बड़े ब्रांड्स हैं, they think they are the big lords, और वो कंज्यूमर गधा है. कंज्यूमर चाहता क्या है? चाहता ये है कि मेरी इज्जत होनी चाहिए, मेरे पैसे की इज्जत होनी चाहिए. But again, the unfortunate truth about money is it disappears very quickly.
What is up, my friends? Dostcast to the moon. Subscribe करो 1 million. Yeah!
Yo, what is up, my friends? Welcome to another episode of Dostcast. मेरा नाम है विनम्र कसाना. I'm coming to you live after a conversation that we recorded in Hoskas Village. Now we're in Hoskas Village near Deer Park. और सबसे हैरत अंगेज बात है, आज की conversation is with Archana Jahagirdar, who is the managing partner at Rukum Capital. I'm going to speak over the traffic so you can hear me better. Or if I'm screaming in your ears, I apologize. This is a conversation that blew my mind in not one but many aspects. सबसे पहले सब लोगों को लगता है कि VC बहुत पैसा कमाते हैं. आज हिंदी में संक्षिप्त रूप में आसान सरल शब्दों में बताया गया कि VC होता भी क्या है, VC लोग पैसा कैसे कमाते हैं. स्टार्टअप वाले कई VC को बुरा बोलते हैं तो वो सोचते नहीं क्यों बोलते हैं. एंड द रिलेशनशिप दैट VC स्टार्टअप्स LPs ऑल शेयर इन कॉमन. ठीक है, हम लोगों ने ये बात भी करी कैसे AI और डीप टेक आने वाले जनरेशन ऑफ इंडियंस को बदलने वाला है और कैसे इसकी जानकारी रखना बहुत ज़रूरी है. वी ऑल्सो डिस्कवर्ड वाई इंडियंस आर सो बुलिश ऑन इंडिया इटसेल्फ. फर्दर एक बड़ी कमाल की बात यह है कि अर्चना हैज़ एक्चुअली वर्कड इन द बेस्ट लेगेसी मीडिया आउटलेट्स इन द कंट्री. ठीक है, Outlook, Z News, Times of India, India Today, I can go on and on and on, and also Business Standard. Then she became a VC after a while, after running her own successful art advisory firm. तो मतलब next level scene है. She's had an amazing career trajectory. And आज हम लोगों ने हिंदी में सारी बातें करी हैं. ये दुनिया आपको बड़ी अजीब सी लगती होगी यार, ये VC की दुनिया में क्या चलता है, बड़ी बड़ी डीलें कटती हैं, सिलिकॉन वैली तक फोन जाते हैं. आज सब कुछ सरल भाषा में आपके लिए हम लेके आ रहे हैं इस पॉडकास्ट पे. और अगर आप यहाँ तक अभी आ गए हैं, make sure you hit the subscribe button because we're going to reach 1 million soon. That being said, the episode with Archana Jahagirdar begins in 3, 2, 1. Archana, welcome to Dostcast. Rather, I am honored to be welcomed to your beautiful office. You've decorated it much tastefully. सबसे पहले मैं आपसे ये पूछना चाहता था कि बहुत सारे लोगों का सवाल होता है कि आजकल एंटरप्रेन्योरशिप स्टार्टअप्स इंडिया में उभर रहे हैं. We can say that entrepreneurs are the new stars. One word that is often misunderstood is VCs. Some elusive shadow government in the world that is operating all of the world startups. ऐसा assumption आता है, right? So in plainly layman terms, एक VC essentially करता क्या है, करती क्या है, and how do they make their money?
तो सबसे पहले जो VC होता है उसको सबसे ज़्यादा पापड़ बेलने पड़ते हैं पैसे उठाने के लिए. सो लोगों को लगता है कि VCs के पास अपना पैसा होता है, वो सच नहीं है. सो जैसे इसका स्ट्रक्चर है, सो यू नो वी आर रेगुलेटेड बाय सेबी. तो बहुत इट्स अ वेरी वेल रेगुलेटेड इंडस्ट्री. सो द वे इट वर्क्स इज देयर समबडी कॉल्ड अ लिमिटेड पार्टनर और LP, which or an entity called a limited partner. So which means कि it could be a very wealthy individual, it could be an institution, it could be a bank, it could even be sovereign wealth, which is government's capital. They decide to give their money to these creatures called VCs. तो हम जैसे लोगों को पैसा देते हैं because it's a specialized way to invest, monitor and then exit. So there's a life cycle जो VC को पूरा manage करना पड़ता है, which is why all of these people or entities who have money give it to a VC to deploy. तो VC को क्या करना पड़ता है, we have to decide कि हमारी strategy क्या है, जिसका मतलब ये होता है कि आप कहाँ पे पैसा डालेंगे, किस स्टेज की कंपनी में पैसा डालेंगे, वो कंपनी करती क्या होगी. So all of those strategies are decided before we can start giving the money to startups, right? अब you know, startup founders think कि VCs तो बड़े आराम से बैठे रहते हैं, तो इनके पास तो पैसा है और ये लाला लोग हैं, इनको क्या समझ आता है. But the truth is that it is far easier for a founder of an operating business to raise capital. बिकॉज ऑपरेटिंग बिजनेसेस इन अ सेंस लोगों को उसका मैथ समझ आता है, राइट? आपने ₹10 डाले, 10 का अगर आप 200 का रेवेन्यू लेके आ रहे हो तो बिजनेस चल पड़ा है एंड उसका कंपाउंडिंग आ जाता है, विच मीन्स कि आज 10 के 200 हो रहे हैं, 200 के कल आपने उसके 1000 बना दिए, सो दैट कंपाउंडिंग विल हैपन, राइट. वेयर इज इन द वीसी बिजनेस इट्स ए इलिक्विड एसेट क्लास, जिसका मतलब ये होता है कि हमारे को एक लाइफ होता है वीसी का, ऑफ द फंड लाइफ, विच वी टेल सेबी, विच वी टेल दी एलपीज. तो जैसे अगर 10 साल के लिए, बिकॉज दीज आर प्राइवेटली हेल्ड एक्विटीज, विच मीन्स कि वो आप कैपिटल मार्केट्स में नहीं ट्रेड करें, विच इज़ द लिक्विड पार्ट ऑफ एक्विटीज. यहाँ पे इज प्राइवेटली हेल्ड. तो इंडिया में देर इज़ नो प्राइवेट वे फॉर मी टू गिव, लेट्स से आई होल्ड एक्विटी इन एक्स कंपनी, आपको उस कंपनी में इंटरेस्ट है, आई कैंट सेल इट टू यू इन अ ओपन मार्केट, राइट. So that's why it's called illiquid. I mean, I can sell it, but there's no marketplace for that, right? तो जो LPs होते हैं वो देखते हैं कि भैया मेरा पैसा वापस कैसे आएगा. So which means for an LP, it has to beat inflation. The money that they give us, it has to beat inflation. It has to beat all the high earning asset classes. So India में capital markets, real estate. So it has to beat all of their returns for them to be interested to give a VC some money.
How tricky.
Exactly. And itne, for a VC, itne macro and micro trends होते हैं which we have no control over, right? The larger economic trends में हमारा कोई control नहीं होता है. ऊपर से जिस founder या जिस company को हम पैसा देते हैं उस पर भी हमारा operational control नहीं होता है, right? अगर मैंने आपको पैसे दिए, आप एक company चला रहे हो, I don't come and take executive decisions, right?
Yeah.
Even if I get an update from you, आप मेरे को बता दोगे कि आज इस महीने में इतना मेरा burn था, इतना मेरा top line growth हुआ. But it is what you are telling me. मैं रोज़ आगे validate तो नहीं कर रही हूँ कि आप जो बोल रहे हो वो सही है, गलत है, जो भी है, right? अब क्या what is working, what is not working is something that the founder is deciding on an everyday basis. Investor नहीं करा. So again, I have no control over the founder either. कि वो कंपनी बड़ी कर रहा है, छोटी कर रहा है, ज़ीरो कर रहा है, कुछ मुझे नहीं, आई मीन कंट्रोल नहीं है, ऑपरेशनल कंट्रोल नहीं होता है, राइट. सो विच इज़ वाई VCs टेक सो लॉन्ग टू डिसाइड एंड विच इज़ वाई देयर इज सच अ हाई रेट ऑफ companies that don't make the cut. It's not that something is wrong with them, it's because what we are up against.
आपके तो स्टेक होल्डर्स ही डिफरेंट है,
वही,
आपकी प्रायोरिटीज डिफरेंट है.
Not only that, imagine करो, real estate, liquid market, very well formed market.
Correct.
Lots of now, great regulation, lots of capital. So if you have to beat that, you have to beat the capital markets. Again, very robust capital markets we have in India. Great amount of, liquidity in that market. There are so many tools with which you can understand those markets, right? So you have to convince an LP कि भैया वो सब छोड़ के आप मुझे पैसा दो, फिर मैं किसी और को दूंगी, एंड वो पैसा फिर आपको उस सब से ज़्यादा रिटर्न्स पे मिलेगा. सो द इक्वेशन इज सो हार्ड, सो हार्ड. सो द फेलियर रेट इन VC, व्हेन आई से फेलियर रेट, इट मीन्स कि फर्स्ट ऑफ ऑल आप पहला फंड चला, टू स्टार्ट द फर्स्ट फंड इटसेल्फ बहुत 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 मुश्किल होता है. सो VCs में ही मतलब वो rate of rejection is so high, much higher than what founders think कि उनको rejection.
So when you say rate of rejection, मतलब कि failing to deliver on the money.
No, failing to even get a license first of all. तो
Okay.
आपको license लेना पड़ता है पहले सेबी से, तो वो भी सबको नहीं मिलता है, because
Okay.
उसकी भी criterias होती हैं, ठीक है. तो चलो आपको license मिल गया, so that itself, so it's almost like a competitive exam. हर stage पे there's rejection and failure. तो लाइसेंस सबको नहीं मिलता है, ठीक है. चलो आपको लाइसेंस मिल भी गया. अब लाइसेंस में भी देर आर लॉट ऑफ कंडीशंस. सो लाइक यू नीड अ स्पॉन्सर. स्पॉन्सर का क्या मतलब होता है कि देर इज दिस पर्सन हुज नेटवर्थ इज गुड इनफ टू मेक गुड इफ समथिंग गोज रॉन्ग.
गारंटर होता है ऐसे लोन्स पे.
इट्स नॉट अ गारंटर एग्जैक्टली, आई मीन दैट्स व्हाई आई डिडंट यूज दैट वर्ड.
Okay.
But there is some implication to it. There's a financial implication to it. So imagine पहले तो finding a person like that जो बोले कि भैया मैं तैयार हूँ आपका स्पॉन्सर। अगेन इन द इंडियन कॉन्टेक्स्ट ऐसे कितने लोग हैं इंडिया में जो कर सकते हैं फर्स्ट ऑफ ऑल,
और आपके दोस्त भी हैं जो,
हाँ एग्जैक्टली, जो आप पे विश्वास करें और बोले कि ठीक है
हाँ.
आप ठीक ठाक हो तो मैं आई विल डू दिस फॉर यू, राइट। तो आपको चलो लाइसेंस मिल गया, यू फुलफिल्ड ऑल द कंडीशन जो दैट इज पार्ट ऑफ द लाइसेंस कंडीशन, तो आपको लाइसेंस मिल गया। उसके बाद देयर इज अ वेरी टाइट पीरियड इन विच यू हैव टू रेज योर फंड, and all those milestones are milestones you've shared with SEBI and you have to share with all the LPs. तो कोई LP बोलता है कि मैं फाइनल क्लोज में आऊँगा।
सॉरी एक सवाल है, when you say a tight period, like how tight are we talking?
So there is you have to do a first close to last close में there's a period, I think 12 months है या 18 months to sort of, so imagine अगर आपने बोला है अपने एप्लीकेशन में कि मैं 500 करोड़ का फंड, so you have to know कि you can raise that 500. It's not a number you plucked from somewhere up there in the ether. अब let's say आप चले, but बीच में between the time you filed your application और दुनिया बदल गई, कोविड हो गया और आपने तो लिख दिया कि भैया मैं तो 500 करोड़ का फंड उठाने वाले हैं।
आप लोग गए थे कोविड के थ्रू?
Yeah, of course we went through COVID. Everybody went through COVID.
No, like जब आपका ये firm like
we were raising our fund during COVID. तो फिर क्या होता है कि and a lot of funds what they do is they make this announcement कि we've done the first close, हमारा इतना साइज का फंड है। So in a sense आप भरी दुनिया को आपने बता दिया है
कि मेरे पे इतने पैसे हैं, नहीं
पैसे मैं उठाने वाली हूँ, and if you can't तो पूरी दुनिया को पता है that you failed.
Wow.
तो अगर आप अभी US में देख रहे हैं बहुत सारे फंड्स हैं जिन्होंने अनाउंस करा था when they started the fundraising process कि whatever, let's say we are going to be a $500 million fund or $1 billion. Quite a few funds have said कि they were not able to meet the target. So आप पूरी full सबके सामने आप फेल हो रहे हो कि आप उतना नहीं उठा पाए, तो पहला क्वेश्चन मार्क तो आप पे वहीं पे लग गया, ठीक है। अब चलो आपने कैसे तैसे करके वो आपने रेज कर लिया, योर डिप्लॉयमेंट पीरियड इज़ ऑल्सो वेरी टाइट, तो देयर इज़ अ प्री डिफाइंड पीरियड इन विच जो आपने अगर लेट्स से आपने 500 करोड़ रेज करे तो यू हैव टू डिप्लॉय इट विद अ वेरी वेरी अगेन टाइट पीरियड। सो अगेन लेट्स से मैंने एप्लीकेशन दे दी, मेरे 500 करोड़ रेज हो गए और कोविड हो गया, and let's say suddenly all the deal, I mean doing that kind of deal making gets difficult, let's say, I mean though it didn't happen that way during COVID, but I'm just giving an example. So suddenly you're sitting on 500 crores and you can't deploy, you have very angry LPs, there's a cost to keeping that structure, that fund going, तो उसके पैसे कौन भर रहा है? So it's a very complex business because of all these aspects. So we are always running against the clock. Like this business is always against the clock. We are always doing catch up to meeting our deadline. अब फिर आता है आपका fund size है, I mean आपका fund tenure let's say 10 साल का है, which means कि आपने जिसको पैसे दिए हैं, जिस founder को आपने पैसे दिए हैं, that founder has to build his or her company in a period where you can return the money well in time, because also market को अगर पता है कि you are at the end of your fund life and तब आप exit के लिए जाओगे तो सबको पता है that you've got your wall again, you're back to the wall, right? तो वो तो फिर बोलेगा मैं इतना दाम नहीं दूंगा, even though the equity may be worth a lot more.
Yeah, you have less leverage then, huh?
Basically. So you're always running against the tide, always, okay? अब जो फंड में जो माना जाता है कि फर्स्ट फंड बाय इटसेल्फ इज वेरी डिफिकल्ट टू गेट ऑफ द ग्राउंड, सो नोबडी ट्रस्ट यू, फाउंडर्स डोंट वांट योर मनी, गेटिंग एलपीज इज हार्ड, लॉट्स ऑफ एलपीज हैव दिस क्राइटेरिया कि फर्स्ट टाइम फंड मैनेजर को पैसे नहीं देंगे, सम हैव कि सेकंड टाइम वाले को भी नहीं देंगे. सो इमेजिन हाउ मेनी रिजेक्शंस वी सी, राइट? अ वीसी सीज फार मोर नोज. And because in a sense, the only thing that we have as a product is money. If you can't raise money, you don't have a business.
So how
Whereas when somebody has a product, a real product, I mean somebody is making, let's say selling coffee, money is a secondary thing that you need. Because you can still go out, hustle and say कि यार मुझे credit पे दे दो, मैं कुछ बेच के फिर वो पैसे वापस, you can do that. But VC में you can't do that. अगर आपके पास पैसे ही नहीं है, then you have nothing.
तो फिर लोग इसमें आते क्यों हैं? क्योंकि बाहर से तो ऐसे जो मैं बोल रहा था कि एजम्पशन ये है कि VCs तो आराम से बैठे रहते हैं, अपने 4-5 स्टार्टअप में पैसे लगाए, हाँ जी थोड़ा टाइम में पैसे आ गए, राइट? कंसिडरिंग कि टाइम पीरियड इतना छोटा रहता है, प्लस आपको ये भी इंश्योर करना है कि ये स्टार्टअप पैसे कमा लेगा, ऐसा ना हो कि फाउंडर बोले मैं छोड़ रहा हूँ बीच में, और LP को भी बताना है. सो हाउ फिर VC पैसे कैसे बनाते हैं? LP से लाइक डू यू गेट अ कट फॉर लाइक giving them returns or from equity in the startups?
Yes. No, you get, so you can't double dip ever if you're an ethical investor.
What's double dipping? I
mean, you can't make money from both the founder and the LP, na?
Achha,
so you will make either from one of the two, right?
Okay.
So again, because it's a regulated business, so the way this business works, we make money from the LPs, right? So there's something called management fee.
Like wealth management, portfolio management के लिए जो लोग लेते हैं.
एक मतलब, so you can run your office, get a high quality team. So the cost of doing business basically.
Okay.
I mean, it's called management fee, but in any business, there's a cost of doing business, right? उसके बिना कैसे, like आपको भी, you need this setup to be able to create something, right? So that is, to me, is cost of doing business. So वो we decide with the LPs upfront. And again, that has to be, we have to already tell the regulator कि हम ये charge करेंगे. So again, it's that highly regulated in the sense कि we can't make up it, we can't say tomorrow कि I want to charge far higher suddenly, because the LPs have to agree, and once those agreements are made, they're pretty watertight agreements, right? Then you have something called carry, which is जब आप exit करते हो, which is where there's an upside. But at the entire portfolio level, usme then you get a cut which is called carry. That's how VC makes money, and for that you have to wait for the entire portfolio exit.
बीच में पैसे कैसे आते हैं?
वही मैनेजमेंट फी जो लेते हैं.
अच्छा, ओके.
हाँ, there's no other way you can.
But it's now that I think about it, मेरे को इतना lucrative लग नहीं रहा है जैसे
बिल्कुल नहीं है. क्योंकि इसी ने नहीं करना चाहिए
ऐसा. लाइक इज देयर लाइक अ पाइपलाइन की फाउंडर सोचता है कि मैं 2-3 बार अच्छा एग्जिट्स कर रहा है, मैं VC बन जाता हूँ? इज दैट जनरली?
Yeah, but I think that is so to be a VC, I would say you need a very, very thick skin, because it's first of all, it's a people's business. And you're literally a bit, see, आपके सारे stakeholders are extremely important. So you can imagine जो LP होते हैं anywhere in the world, again, it's not exclusive to India, they're very powerful and very, very wealthy people, right? Or entities or institutions. So they're always more powerful than you are, because you don't have that kind of corpus, right, of capital. So they're very important stakeholders, and ultimately they are giving you that capital. Without that capital, you can't exist, right? Literally, like there's nothing else you have to offer. So they are very important stakeholders. Then you have the regulator, again, extremely important stakeholder. Then you've got the founders who you're deploying money into. So again, your portfolio founders are your extremely critical stakeholders. So you have to manage all of. So as a VC, actually, I mean, I know that there are some VCs who are called arrogant and all, but to my mind, it's the most humbling thing you can do in your life, because आपको सबको साथ लेके चलना पड़ता है, right? Because, and if a LP ever, let's say, has a question on something that you have invested in, which is on the founder or the company, but you are in the middle,
आप answerable हो.
Exactly. Every day you're answerable to everybody, all these stakeholders, everybody. And हर stakeholder की different level of requirements होती हैं, different expectations होती हैं, both what is said and unsaid expectations होती हैं. So your job is to manage each of those stakeholders, and that, to my mind, is one of the most important skill set you need as a VC.
You must have mastered send from my iPhone lowercase emails then.
See, you've just got to so you've got to have a sense of humor, you've got to have a thick skin,
okay,
and you've got to really you've got to know how to walk a tightrope.
Okay.
It's basically a tightrope walk.
Let's talk about that. चलो ठीक है. अब एक बाहर से LP आता है, बोलता है यार आप लोग बहुत अच्छा काम कर रहे हो, ठीक है, मैं बड़ा खुश हूँ और मैं चाहता हूँ कि ये हमारे 300 करोड़ है, आप लोग लगाओ. बोलते हो बढ़िया है, ग्रेट. तो आप as soon as the money is deployed to you, आपका पहला थॉट क्या होता है कि is it personal preference? जैसे आपने बोला आप आर्ट में इंटरेस्टेड हो, चलो मैं I think this art firm is doing well, or for example I'm a coffee aficionado, कॉफ़ी में लगा देते हैं. बाहर देखने में ऐसा लगता है कि यार ये इस इंडस्ट्री के बारे में थोड़ा जानते हैं, maybe they have experience about that, so it's safer to then invest in emerging trends in the same industry. But typically, and I know there are several factors, it's not just one factor, what is going on in your head जब आप बोलते हो इस पैसे को हम यहाँ लगाएंगे?
So, no VC, I mean, VCs claim to be specialists, but think about it, can anybody specialize in the future? And VCs actually are betting on the future. So again, it's a little bit of a PR trick to claim कि हमने बहुत study करा है. Like now everybody is saying कि हमने Gen AI पे बड़ा study. How could you have studied Gen AI? Like for example, of course you know artificial intelligence has been around for a long time. But अगर आज कोई बोले कि मैं और हर कोई बोल रहा है कि मैं Gen AI का expert, how could you be an expert? You can't be.
If it's just been around like for
exactly.
months.
So how can you be, right? Now, of course, the the R&D guys who've been working on this, they are experts. But the speed at which every VC is claiming to be an expert, it's bullshit. So, why do VCs say that? Because they want to seem intelligent कि हमने ये जो investment करी है, हम बड़े अक्लमंद हैं.
हम सभी नेवल रविकांत हैं basically.
हाँ. तो, but जो सच्चाई है, for every VC, I would say, with few exceptions, of course. Is that we are all betting, and early stage we are all betting on the future. Future is always unknown, right? So what is it that you see? You have to do a very quick analysis based on imperfect conditions and information.
Yeah, uncertainties.
And of course, because nobody knows. See, again, like people are very quick to jump and say, "Arey, we should wait for few years before investing in Gen AI because पहले इतने सारे bubbles आ चुके हैं, तो ये भी bubble है." Which could be right, it could be wrong. So again, nobody can predict what's a bubble and what's not a bubble to some extent, right? But again, investing, especially early stage investing, is always, you want to get in as early as possible because that's where you make the most amount of money. But that's also where you can lose the most amount of money.
Just like day trading in stock markets.
I know, it's not day trading, it's more about, see, when you buy a stock at its lowest, but you know that there is fundamentally the company is strong and maybe there may be some reasons, which are not entirely performance based because of which the stock has gone down. So you hold the stock for a long time. Day traders don't hold stocks for.
That's true.
Right?
That is true. Yeah.
So early stage investing or VC investing is more like that. Except when you are doing capital markets and even when the stock is low, you have a lot of data, a lot of information that is available for you to study, to know, to understand. In VC, you don't have that data. You don't have that information point. Today you can say, okay, X number of big tech companies are all behind. But even that's no guarantor for success. Ki haan, Gen AI will be a success because every tech company is saying कि हम इतने billions of dollars लगा रहे हैं. ऐसे भी नहीं होता है. So again, it's an interesting thing that money alone or large sums of money alone doesn't lead to success, which is again a big myth. Everybody thinks कि मेरे पास अगर इतने पैसे आ जाएंगे तो चलो मैं बड़ी company बना लूँगा, which is not the case. So like IBM launched Watson much earlier. I mean that was
correct.
In a sense it was similar to what is happening now. So why didn't Watson work? I mean, IBM is not short of money in any way, right? Or talent. So it takes a lot of, I would say, it's a early stage bets are more of, it's a mix of an art and a science. It's not exactly a science and it's not exactly an art, right? And it should not be based actually on the VC's preference because that's when your biases are the strongest. Both for or against. So, for example, if I hate coffee, for example,
God.
I don't hate coffee. No, I'm not saying I hate coffee. I'm saying, for example, if I were to say that, or let's say if I was somebody who didn't drink coffee, but if there was a big opportunity, my biases cannot be the reasons for not doing something. And and unfortunately, again, a lot of VCs do let their personal biases creep in.
Especially if it's a common behavior that you don't follow, right?
Yeah. So, I mean, like I can tell you, VCs love premium products because we can all afford it because we are at a certain income bracket. But that doesn't mean that those are going to be large
Profitable,
companies.
yeah.
Or large companies necessarily, right? Because again, how many of us exist in India, or how many of us have the same buying behaviors, right? So it's really important to understand what is the larger sort of behavior that will lead to success and lead to large companies getting built. Sometimes it can come out of your own sort of lived experience. But I would say...
But you don't rely on it as much? कि मैंने देखा था कि टर्की में जब हम वेकेशन पे गए थे वहाँ पे टर्किश कॉफी आ रही थी, यहाँ पे भी आएगी?
बिल्कुल नहीं, बिल्कुल भी नहीं. I will not let those biases
come in. But it seems like you almost have to work against your nature to do good investment.
No. Like I said, I mean, in some cases, yes, it'll be, something that you understand, or it's your lived experience. But I'm saying it cannot be the only reason or the way to invest.
So let's get specific then, no?
Yeah.
आपने स्लीपी ऑल में इन्वेस्ट कर रखा है, आपने स्वामी में कर रखा है, दोनों कंपनीज मैंने अच्छी तरह ट्राई करी है. मैं पर्सनली ऐसे बहुत सारे लोग बन गए आजकल कॉफी के एफिशिएंटो, बट आई बीन सीइंग स्लीपी ऑल सिंस एट द अर्ली स्टार्ट ऑफ द पेंडेमिक, व्हेन एक नेस्कैफे को टक्कर देने वाला एक ब्रांड ऐसे आया जिसके अंदर हमें प्रीमियम कॉफी मिल रही है. बिकॉज उससे पहले यू कुडंट रियली गेट प्रीमियम कॉफी इन दिल्ली द वे यू वांट इट. और बाहर when I lived abroad, I saw like all kinds of specialty coffee places emerging, right? So it was the first thing that I saw, D2C standpoints. Then gin sort of was on the rise. Corporates were drinking gin and ditching the vodkas and, their stereotypical beers, health movement, जो भी कुछ है. And then tonics started coming in the market, right? अब मैं तो investor नहीं हूँ, but noticing that
बनना चाहिए
है, होना चाहिए. Once I have enough capital, maybe. But इन दोनों behaviors को मैंने observe करा, and lo and behold, I see around me, I'm 26, I see all around me कि आसपास के लोग बात कर रहे हैं, oh, have you tried this place where they serve gin and tonic, and it's still coming onto their lips. It's not like a learned behavior as of yet. Same specialty coffee के साथ, with the way people are going to Blue Tokais or trying like a Sleepy Howl or something else, and then suddenly it becomes a default behavior in the metros. Right now everyone knows, even Mumbai के अंदर कि सबको कॉफी जो इतना ज़्यादा specialty होता था, even that has become more democratic and for the masses. So like ये particular investments, what got you to invest in these places?
So I think like you said, if you look at all markets, and we do study other markets, but it's not to understand a cut copy paste sort of a behavior, but just to see how consumers in other markets are sort of thinking about their sort of choices. And social media especially has really compressed the trends, because if I can see something that's happening in the US or somewhere else, it's likely to interest me and say, okay, as a consumer you'll say, okay, maybe यहाँ पे भी होता तो अच्छा होता तो try कर लेते type, right? So in the case of both Sleepy Owl and Swami, it was a function of, is there an emerging class of Indians who now want products that reflect and are part of their persona and personality, right? I think the Indian consumer is becoming much more aware of wanting products and services and brands that they can sort of be proud to be associated with. So it's no longer only foreign products are attractive,
right?
You want something जो मुझे समझे और मेरी lifestyle को समझे, right? Those are the kind of products that work. So I think for Sleepy Owl and Swami, for both those investments, we felt that the founders and the brand personas understood this change in the consumer behavior. Now, for both of them, I mean, both beverage in India is typically an offline business. It's actually not a D2C business.
Okay.
But both had to sort of get a bit more D2C because of the pandemic, because when everybody, the country had shut down, there was no way of reaching the consumer otherwise.
And they both have strong online presences as well.
They know how to see, you can build a very strong connect with your consumer online, because it allows you to build your brand. It allows you to be where your consumer is today, right? So both the brands have an affinity to the millennial population. So, which is where the millennials are on social media, they are digitally more native. So, obviously, these brands, do a lot of storytelling over there. But beverage in India is an offline business. So, their strategy was more offline. They had to look at online because of COVID. And now, as COVID and, the lockdowns are behind us, there's a strong, again, push to be everywhere where the consumer is, because the consumer, the millennial consumer, which a lot of people don't understand, is still buying offline and not buying as much online as people assume.
Abhi bhi like they're going to the Zara's and H&M's and whatever to buy shopping, like clothes के अपनी shopping करने के लिए.
सब चीज़ों के लिए, not just सब चीज़ों के लिए. See, again, this is the point I was making कि you know, everybody wants to look कि मेरे को अब ये ट्रेंड समझ आ गया तो मैं जल्दी से जाके इसके बारे में बोलूँ. सो जब कोविड हुआ एंड ऑफ कोर्स ऑनलाइन, एवरीबडी वाज ऑनलाइन बिकॉज वी वर ऑल फोर्स्ड ऑनलाइन. इट वाज नॉट चॉइस,
राइट.
बट हर किसी ने उसको डिक्लेयर कर दिया कि बस अब इंडिया में सब ऑनलाइन ही शॉप करेंगे एंड एवरीबडी
वर्क फ्रॉम होम ही होगा. एंड लुक हियर वी आर सिटिंग इन ऑफिस, यहाँ पे लोग बैठ के काम कर रहे हैं.
एग्जैक्टली. एंड एवरीबडी कन्फ्लेटेड लैक ऑफ चॉइस as choice. That was a mistake everybody made. हमारे पास किसी के पास चॉइस ही नहीं थी तो क्या करेंगे, घर में बैठे रहेंगे. बट मैन इज अ सोशल एनिमल. वो you know, human beings need each other. We need warm bodies around us. We need वो चहल पहल. इंडियंस को तो और भी चाहिए होती है, हमको चहल पहल चाहिए होती है. We can't sit, you know, sequestered into our homes, सब चुप 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 चुप, मतलब you know. तो जब चॉइस नहीं थी तो एक सर्टन बिहेवियर था. The minute choices come back to the consumer ने अपना दिखा दिया कि भैया मुझे तो दुकान में जाना है, मेरे को वो दुकानदार से 2 बातें करनी है, चाहे वो हैगल करना है या कुछ डिस्कस करना है. योर डिस्कवरी हैपन्स ऑफलाइन. तो यू नो, आई थिंक वी शुड सॉर्ट ऑफ रिस्ट्रेन आवरसेल्व्स फ्रॉम जंपिंग एंड सेइंग कि अब ऐसे ही होने वाला है. There's no such thing. You've got to keep observing and understanding the difference between, you know, what people do when they have choice and what people do, what is their behavior when they don't have choice, and not conflate the two, you know. So like if you look at small town India, wahan pe lot of these brands that now small town India aspires to, wo milta nahi hai because wahan tak distribution shayad pahunchi nahi hai. Or you know, there is a problem of last mile delivery in India because of the size of our country and infrastructure. तो अगर नहीं वहाँ पे कोई चीज़ पहुँची है and that consumer wants to consume say that particular brand, ऑब्वियसली फिर ऑनलाइन ही आपके पास ऑप्शन है, राइट. तो आप ऑनलाइन ऑर्डर करोगे. बट विल दैट कंटिन्यू द मिनट दैट स्मॉल टाउन इंडियन कंज्यूमर ऑल्सो हैज चॉइस इज द क्वेश्चन आई थिंक एवरी कंपनी एंड ब्रांड शुड कंसिडर.
या सो फॉर कॉन्टेक्स्ट, मैं फरीदाबाद में रहता हूँ एंड वहाँ पे देयर वाज दिस डिज़ायर अमंग सेवरल अमंग्स कि एक अच्छी कॉफ़ी शॉप आए, बिकॉज जो मॉम एंड पॉप कैफ़ेज़ होते हैं वो कॉफ़ी debatable quality देंगे because उनके पास एक like a big chain, the kind of quality that they can deliver they don't have. And most CCDs and everyone else, it's just like their specialty is not coffee. I think their specialty is real estate कि हम यहाँ पे बैठ के आप chill कर सकते हो, date पे जा सकते हो, जो भी behavior है. The moment Starbucks came, no, I saw for the first time एक ऐसा कंज्यूमर जो मैकबुक लेके बैठ के काम करता है. दिस वाज समथिंग दैट नेवर हैपेंड इन माय सिटी, सो आई वाज वेरी फैसिनेटेड बाय दैट. एंड देन उसकी अगली साइड में सोशल खुल रहा है. सो आई नोटिस जस्ट बाय ओपनिंग ऑफ स्टारबक्स कितना बिहेवियर ऑलरेडी बदल गया है, राइट. नाउ द थिंग इज, लोग ऑनलाइन कंज्यूमर्स पर्टिकुलरली एंड ब्रांड्स ऑल्सो बहुत सारी ऐसे बातें बोलते हैं. हमने सर्वे करा है, हमें ये पता लगा है बेस्ड ऑन एक्चुअल नंबर्स एंड फिगर्स. आपको ऐसे और कौन से बिहेवियर लगते हैं अक्रॉस इंडिया जो दैट आर स्टार्कली डिफरेंट फ्रॉम व्हाट दे आर पोर्ट्रेड ऑनलाइन?
I would say that the Indian consumer wants value for money.
Still affordability is key?
नहीं. तो value for money is not the same as lowest price. Value for money ये है, see, India में the truth is कि जो products मिलते थे, they have not taken their association and how they service the consumer seriously at all. So consumer को almost as a commodity treat करा गया है, right? And also India में there's a very large unorganized market. So वो unorganized जो player होता है वो बड़ा transactional होता है, right? उसने एक पॉलीथीन की थैली में कुछ सामान डाल के बेच दिया. उसकी रिलेशनशिप थोड़ी बहुत वो रिटेलर के साथ होती है कि भाई मेरा सामान तो लगा दे और तू बेच देना. उसको कोई मतलब नहीं है कि कंज्यूमर खुश है, दुखी है. उसको सिर्फ ये उससे मतलब है कि भैया मेरा सामान बिक रहा है, क्यों बिक रहा है, कैसे बिक रहा है, कौन, उसको उससे कोई मतलब नहीं है, राइट. सो द कंज्यूमर डजंट गेट द फुल एक्सपीरियंस दैट द कंज्यूमर डिज़ायर्स, राइट. तो देयरफॉर देन द परसेप्शन इज कि भैया सस्ते में सब कुछ चाहिए, विच इज़ नॉट द केस. अब जो ब्रांड्स आ रहे हैं they are trying, and ultimately what does it mean to be a brand? Brand का मतलब ये होता है कि आप you're so consumer obsessed कि आप उसको पूरा experience दे रहे हो. And if there's a break in that experience, you are able to rectify it. आप consumer को इतनी अच्छी तरह से जानते हो, उससे बात करते हो कि if there's that break and you treat that consumer with respect, right? And consumer चाहता क्या है? यही चाहता है. Consumer is also not looking for a perfect product. बट कंज्यूमर ये बोल रहा है कि भैया मेरा उल्लू मत काटो, कि मैं अपने हार्ड अर्न पैसा आपको दे रहा हूँ या दे रही हूँ, तो उसके लिए आप मेरी इज्जत करो ना. राइट. द पावर डायनामिक इन इंडिया हैज़ बीन डिफरेंट. वो जो बड़े ब्रांड्स हैं, दे हैव ट्रीटेड, दे थिंक दे आर द बिग लॉर्ड्स, और वो कंज्यूमर गधा है. बट कंज्यूमर चाहता क्या है? चाहता ये है कि मेरी इज्जत होनी चाहिए, मेरे पैसे की इज्जत होनी चाहिए, बस वही चाहता है. It's not perfection. So if you look for products which have, or brands which have real consumer love, it is because the consumer feels that वो brand मेरी सुन रहा है, मेरे को समझ रहा है, इसलिए जो वो कर रहा है वो मेरे लिए कर रहा है, और अगर नहीं ठीक कर पा रहा तो ठीक है. It's like how we are with each other, right? If you really love somebody, whether it's your parents, your sibling, partner, I mean, आपके partners, parents सब गलतियाँ, बहुत बड़ी गलतियाँ भी करते हैं, but you're able to forgive them, right? But you don't break your relationship with them ever, because you know that वो आपकी सुन रहे हैं, they're trying to do the best by you. It's exactly the same thing between a consumer and a brand.
Have you ever been to Barbecue Nation in your life?
Actually, no.
No? So मैंने भी सोचा था कि Barbecue Nation में वो ना बर्थडे वगैरह काट केक बनाते हैं. आपने ये सुना होगा कि they have this whole policy where they sing you happy birthday. So मेरे को लगता है ये पता नहीं क्या है. I was in Bareilly for a podcast and I just wanted to have some meat and Barbecue Nation was the only option. So I went there. आप जो बात कर रहे हो ना ब्रांड की, and I had 4 or 5 different servers. हर सर्वर ने पर्सनली आके हमसे टेबल पे कई बार, सर खाना सब कुछ अच्छा है, कैन वी डू समथिंग फॉर यू, हम ये कर सकते हैं, ये ले लो वो ले लो. एंड द फूड वाज ओके, बट क्वांटिटीज राइट. सो अगर हमारे को पेट भरना है, मी एंड माई बिग टीम, वी कैन डू इट. the servers almost doted over us, right? So हम हंसी मजाक कर रहे हैं, we're feeling more relaxed at the presses, right? As a result, Barbecue Nation, which I consider to be like a very affordable brand, maybe I'll go somewhere, उसकी मेरे मन में image बढ़ गई कि it's reliable, right? I don't think everyone does it. So my question then is, does brand come from financials or customer success, या फिर company का internal culture? Because I'm sure you've surveyed several companies, so what have you found?
See, again, internal culture क्या होता है? Again, it's the same principle, right? See, if you understand that whether it's building an internal culture, whether it's creating that stickiness with your consumer, it's the same principle that I just explained कि अगर आप, if you really really love your parents, तो उसका what is the how does that get expressed on a day to day basis? आप रोज तो नहीं बोलते ना कि I love you.
कभी आप किसी को गिफ्ट दे सकते हो, maybe you open the
नहीं. The way it gets communicated almost silently is, अगर आपके माता पिता को, or whoever your loved one is, उनको लगता है look ये मेरी बात सुनता है, समझता है, and tries to solve for, अगर मेरी कोई problem है, that's enough. Whether you can solve it, it doesn't matter. Whether you're perfect, nobody is looking for perfection. Human beings are not looking for, it's a big myth that human beings want perfection. Human beings want कि भैया मेरे को कोई तुच्छ तरह से नहीं ट्रीट करे, मुझे कोई बुरा ना बोले, मुझे कोई मतलब ऐसी नहीं ट्रीट करे कि मेरे को लगे कि यार मैंने ये क्यों करा. That's all. And that's true internally in a company, it's true with the consumer, it's true with every stakeholder. India में क्या होता है, we go, either we become very very subservient, especially when we see somebody very powerful, and हम अगर कोई powerful नहीं है उसको हम बड़ी गंदी तरह से treat करते हैं. We are rude, we are obnoxious. You know, there is a way to just be professional. That's it. You don't have to be subservient. And you don't have to show your power. So, see, in the professional world, na, everybody is a gatekeeper. कोई ना कोई किसी का gatekeeper होता है, right? तो जितने भी gatekeepers हैं, automatically, you know, they become hated because they're the gatekeepers. Because obviously gatekeeping का मतलब ये होता है you're going to keep somebody out. or you're going to keep a lot of people out, not just somebody but a lot of people. So people think अरे इसको किसने इतना दर्जा दे दिया कि वो हम सबको that's the problem fundamentally people have with gatekeepers, right? कि क्यों, right? Now gatekeepers are also human beings, they can't do things perfectly, but as long as even when you're saying no to somebody, the interaction is okay, it's fine. Now again, not all interactions are going to be perfect again, because it's a personal chemistry. अगर तुम्हारी और मेरी personal chemistry बैठ ही नहीं रही है, and I mean if you're human and I'm human, we will be abrasive or we will react. That's human nature. So when you try and be artificial and say नहीं यहाँ पे हम हमेशा सुखी रहेंगे, like नहीं होता है, because that is fundamentally not human nature. आप अगर किसी भी I mean जीव जंतु को देख लीजिए, they stay true to their nature, and that nature can be both adverse, favorable, good, bad, but fundamental जो है वो रहेगा. We can all work on things, but वो work करने में and to reach that point जो आप पूरे perfection में आ जाओ, वो कभी नहीं होने वाला. The only time you're perfect is when you're dead.
I was segueing for that, which is it seems like you have several interesting opinions on human nature. मैं आपसे पूछता हूँ, you obviously had a very illustrious career, have had an illustrious career in text journalism, print journalism, sorry. फिर आपने और भी सारी चीज़ें करी, you were at Angel Works and then you set up your own art firm. जब VC बनते हैं, क्योंकि हर एक जॉब के साथ एक स्टेटस एसोसिएटेड होता है, as we know clearly, like in the 80s and 90s, like newscasters and journalists were like the top tier of the food chain, कि respected लोग हैं, ठीक है, जैसे IAS have been bureaucrats have been consistently at the top, right? जब आप VC बनते हो तो आपको all of a sudden दुनिया भर के लोग आपको email flood करते होंगे, आपको कॉल करते होंगे, लोग आपको इंट्रोज कराते होंगे व्हाट्सएप पे, hey just wanted to introduce you, इस तरह से. So how has your life changed in that regard, and has that allowed you to keep your walls up about who's straight up going for your money, and how has that revealed something about human nature to you? ये अब तो पैसों की बात हो गई ना, अब तो इससे ज़्यादा open conversation क्या है?
So in fact, I appreciate people who are straight up. So I feel there's nothing wrong अगर people want to be transactional. भैया अगर यहाँ पे पैसे दिख रहे हैं, पैसा चाहिए, that's perfectly fine. In fact, I have a bigger problem. जिसको पैसा चाहिए, but वो गोल करके.
So what is some example of that? Like,
so no, but let me tell you how I became a VC first of all, and that'll answer your one of your questions. So I set up Angel Works because we wanted to be an incubator, an accelerator. ठीक है, तो हमने शुरू करा, and the model was that we will charge like a fee, right? And we won't take any equity, which is what founders really care about, कि हमारी equity कोई नहीं ले. ठीक है, we don't agree with anyway taking free equity, तो हम equity नहीं लेंगे, we'll charge a fee. Like you would go for any coaching class में आप एक fee देते हो, वैसे हम fee charge करेंगे, and we'll give founders access to some of the smartest and the most successful founders in India. That was the model. तो क्या होता था कि एक मीटिंग के लिए लोग आते थे, they would say हाँ we really want mentors, and हमारे ये सवाल हैं, हमारी ये प्रॉब्लम्स हैं, कोई अगर सॉल्व कर दे, हमारे को कोई मेंटर मिल जाए, हाँ, तो I'd be like yes यही करना है, मेरे को सेवा करनी है. And founders को by the second meeting they would say आप चेक नहीं काटोगे तो हम क्यों आ रहे हैं यहाँ पे, you're wasting our time. So you realized, and again this is a universal truth about founders, that their first search is for capital, right? And which is fair.
धंधे के लिए पैसा लगता है.
हाँ, तो क्यों नहीं होना चाहिए, right? So that's when I realized, जो हम इस इंडस्ट्री में एक शब्द बहुत इस्तेमाल करते हैं, pivot. तो तब हमने ये pivot मारा, हमने कहा भैया पैसे देने चाहिए, otherwise founders are not interested. So look, I think again इंडिया में कभी कभी ऐसा लगता है कि पैसा कमाना बुरी चीज़ है. नहीं, बुरी चीज़ है. और किसी को अगर इफ़ दैट इज़ माई बिजनेस, अगर मेरा काम ही ये है कि मैं लोगों को I'll give them capital to get equity in their companies, and so that they can build those companies, and if people come to me for capital, obviously I mean I'm okay with that. But I think there are certain parts which make it a little difficult. अब जैसे for example, a lot of people send cold emails. Now the etiquette of cold email is आपने किसी को cold email भेजा, अब भैया it's that person's choice कि वो हाँ ना या ignore करे, right? But people start getting so aggressive कि जवाब कैसे नहीं दे रहे हो, भैया मैंने थोड़ी email मांगा था. So again, like I also send cold emails और जवाब नहीं आता, so you accept it.
It's a part of life.
Exactly. So again, no's are part of life. When I go to fundraise for my funds, I hear lots of no's, right? All fund managers hear no's. So you take it on the chin because that's part. Nobody is going to be 100% be there for you.
So you're
ये
saying
दुनिया आपके लिए नहीं बनी हुई है. No, it's a fact. Like you've got to understand that you have to just keep moving ahead.
So wouldn't you say कि जो लोग आपको बार-बार ईमेल भेज रहे हैं वो तो persistent है? Like
नहीं वो भी ठीक है, but I'm saying गुस्सा नहीं होना चाहिए.
क्या people send angry cold emails कि आपने respond नहीं करा, आप तो बुरे आदमी हो, बुरी औरत हो.
मैंने इतनी ईमेल्स भैया आपने भेजी बिकॉज आपको चाहती वो भेजने के लिए, किसी ने मांगी नहीं थी. एंड सो अगेन दिस इज द पार्ट ऑफ बीइंग प्रोफेशनल कि भेजी आपने, यू आर परसिस्टेंट, दैट्स आल्सो ओके. बट दूसरे बंदे को नहीं इंटरेस्ट है, दैट इज आल्सो ओके.
You should read the room, like
exactly. And that's part of everybody's business. My business, your business, everybody's business, right? It's not unique कि VCs ही जी आपके कॉल ईमेल को जवाब नहीं दे रहे, भैया सब ऐसे करते हैं. सो इट्स ओके. एंड हर चीज़ में आप कोई भी नई चीज़ करने जाओ, कोई भी, इट डजेंट मैटर वेदर VC है, यू नो, यू आर डूइंग एनीथिंग फॉर द फर्स्ट टाइम, you will have people who will not believe in it, and that is also okay, because how can people believe in something that they can't see? Again, that's human nature. अगर आप समझ ही नहीं पा रहे हो कि ये क्या होने वाला है, people will stay away. People want certainty in their lives. People don't want कि उधम कोई आगे मचा दे कि भैया सडनली ना ये सब होने वाला है. So अगर आप एक, and that's, you know, again human nature कि आप अगर एक चीज़ करते हो वही करोगे. आप कॉफ़ी पीते हो सुबह 8 बजे, आप 8 बजे रोज़ कॉफ़ी पियोगे ही. And if you don't get it, you will feel कि यार मेरा दिन क्या हो गया, आज क्या हो गया, you know, you get very unsettled. So in this, I think business, there is, I think, some entitlement sort of behavior that is creeping in कि भैया हमको तो पैसे मिलने ही चाहिए. Again, there is no such thing. I can't be entitled. I can't say कि मुझे हर LP पैसे, they have to give me the money. It doesn't work like that, right? You've got to take no's gracefully. You've got to understand that people may not be able to see it, and that's okay. That it doesn't mean that that person is bad, and it doesn't mean that you're doing something wrong or you should stop doing what you're doing. You have to keep looking at कि आप जो कर रहे हो, can you sustain doing that?
Correct.
It's not about validation from a VC. So lot of, I think it's become this कि VC ने पैसा दे दे तो that validates. It doesn't validate anything. Or the only thing that validates your business is your belief in keeping at it continuously. That's it. That's the only validation. और कोई दुनिया में आपको validate नहीं कर सकता है.
अभी आपने इससे पहले you talked about how इंडिया में बहुत सारे लोगों को तकलीफ होती है पैसे लेने के अंदर या पैसे कमाने के अंदर ओपनली बोलने के लिए कि अब मैं इसके पैसे चार्ज करूँगा. I was yesterday only had such a fun time with this Instagram star from this नोएडा का एक गाँव है. I was sitting with him recording a podcast and he is viral. मतलब मैं I was on the streets with him and everyone would stop their bikes and cars and come and click pictures with him, right? And I was like, okay, आप why are you not monetizing this? आप you know you should charge for your appearances. ना भाई इसके पैसे नहीं ले सकते, गाँव वालों ने मना कर रखा है और लोग बोलते हैं हमने तो आपको ऊपर उठाया है और आप हमसे पैसे लोगे.
Wow.
And so I was like, what? So, because clearly my capitalistic beliefs have been cemented after living in the US more, right? And like being around businesses. आपके स्टार्टिंग में पैसों को लेके क्या विचार थे कैपिटल को लेके, and now how do you see it as someone who essentially strategically dispenses money and hopes it returns back in manyfold?
See, money is the spine which holds things together, right? And you have to make money constantly to sort of stay in the same place.
Wow.
तो बहुत लोग जो ये कहते हैं ना कि मैं 40 पे if I make enough money I'll retire, but again the unfortunate truth about money is it disappears very quickly और पता भी नहीं चलता है.
Especially now when it's numbers on a screen.
तो mean at all times. See, what happens is कि जो say एक तो value depreciate होती है because you know as inflation goes up, तो एक वो है. But there's this mysterious thing about money. So if you look and study the wealthiest sort of corporates or families, you know, through the centuries, you'll see कि at one point, you know, like let's say a family was like the Medici family, you know, was controlling everything in the world. They were so wealthy. आज मतलब कहाँ पे है? मतलब when I say आज, I mean at a point this suddenly just completely just disappeared, right? So money is a very 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 strange sort of, I would say, creature कि कब गायब होता है समझ नहीं आता है. So you have to keep at it. So I believe again this whole thing कि अरे money एक तो चीज़ है, इतना क्या करना है, but it's like anything else, right? You know, and it can be a force for good or bad depending on the person who controls it. Money by itself is neutral, right? But it is what moves things.
It does.
Yeah. So अगर आप वो accept कर लो and treat it as one more element, but an important element, you should have a good sort of relationship. I think there's nothing wrong to aspire to make a lot of money, but you should also understand that making money is actually very hard. So that is,
and keeping it is harder.
Yeah. Because the minute people have money, वो पूरी दुनिया आ जाती है. वो पता नहीं कौन से मरे हुए सारे चाचे ताए
हमें दे दो, हमें दे दो, हमें दे दो.
हम ये कर देंगे, हम वो कर देंगे. ये भला काम है इसलिए दे दो, which is all bullshit because it's going into somebody's pocket. So I think aspiring to make a lot of money, I think it's a great goal, and I think everybody should aspire to it if that's the goal they want. But they should also know that it's very, very difficult to do it and do it the right way. So you should be prepared for it. So अभी जो नारायण मूर्ति के comment पे इतना लोग गुस्सा कर रहे हैं कि 70 week, it's about what your dreams are.
What is the comment? I have no idea.
So Narayan Murthy in an interview said that, you know, in India youth should work 70 hours a week if you want to overtake other economies. And so of course again everybody saying कि अरे how can he say 70?
आप hustle culture फिर promote कर रहे हो पैसे कमाने के बाद. That's the attitude. Yeah.
So but my point is that it is hard to make money.
Yeah.
So somebody like Narayan Murthy, when he says that, it's because अगर आपकी वो aspiration है तो आपको ये करना पड़ेगा. आपकी वो aspiration नहीं है आप
तो बनो digital nomad
चिल मारो यार, तो क्या फर्क पड़ता है. मतलब I mean there's no reason to get angry, but the thing is you have to know that अगर आपका ये goal है life में तो उसके लिए आपको ये करना पड़ेगा.
Right.
It's that. It's matching the action to the goal that you have. That's it. So if you want to be as wealthy as Narayan Murthy is today, that 70-hour week is probably what he did, and he maybe does it even today. So he's in a sense telling people that this was my blueprint. I worked that many hours.
Yeah.
You know, which is why I could make Infosys. भाई आपको नहीं Infosys बनानी है, आप मत काम करो. Then don't begrudge somebody who built it and built that kind of wealth.
And is now sharing their blueprint.
Exactly.
This is how I did it. Yeah. Which reminds me, इसमें the one thing that will make wealth making astronomically significant for some and absolutely dead for others is the topic of AI and deep tech, right? क्योंकि अभी हम लोग we see lots of young influencers emerging, वो 3, 4, 10, 15 टूल उठा लेते हैं AI के, वो भी AI curator list से, and कि ये AI use करो ये, and there's a lot of doomsday kind of conversation around AI, right? Personally in my team, we use AI for everything now, right? It's helped us cut costs significantly. It's allowed us to be one step ahead, right, from a lot of our competitors and everything else. What is your fascination with it? Where do you see it? क्योंकि ये तो वो वाली बात है कि VC से तो पूछना ही पड़ता है कि भाई आपकी AI पे क्या राय है. But more so than राय, I would say is there's so many companies in the AI, like people are literally building AI first companies now. Where do you see this going in the next 5 years, right? And particularly from an Indian standpoint, because there is a lot of representation in the AI world by Indians.
So we are doing New Delhi Slushed, which is around AI and deep tech. And when we were starting to think about what we wanted to do at New Delhi Slushed, we said that this is the theme that we want to pick up. And the reason for that is that Look, I think there are these sort of, generational leaps that happen in technology. There's a defining moment, and you can't get left behind. So, electricity and the ability to generate electricity at scale change everything for the US, right? And at every point in development, there will be technologies which will change the world significantly, right? India cannot afford to be left behind, because I think if you get left behind, you have an imminent danger of becoming a digital colony, which I don't think any of us would like that, right?
A digital colony?
Colony.
What does that mean?
It means that people will use our tech talent, but no wealth will get created, or no big companies and products will get created here.
Can't repeat Empire Part 2, that's too much.
Exactly. So which is why it's important to be at the forefront. Now, is it a bubble? Will it take time to emerge? Again, like I said at the beginning of the podcast, I don't think anybody can truly predict that. And even the big companies, I mean, if you speak to Sam Altman, while he'll have a very precise sort of, context setting, but I can tell you that if you were to compare that 3 years later with what he's saying today, it may be completely different, because nobody can really fully predict the future. I mean, we all hope that it's going to go in a certain direction, or it looks as if it's going in a certain direction, but whether it'll actually end up there, nobody knows, right? So therefore, for New Delhi / we said for India, it's very, very important to now understand that, are we building for India? What does India need in AI? And what will be built for India? Now, this is the moment that we should not be copying. So what happened in the earlier version of tech companies, there was a lot of cut, copy, paste. कि अच्छा अमेरिका में ये मॉडल चल गया तो यहाँ अब इंडिया वर्जन हम यहाँ बना देंगे. But in AI, there should be a lot of fresh thinking, which is what we want to sort of create, a community of AI founders, Gen AI founders, who can really riff off each other कि भैया क्या चल रहा है, कौन सा कस्टमर है.
Right now everyone's operating in silos independently.
So वो साइलो तोड़ना पड़ेगा, because AI में इनफैक्ट वो साइलोज बहुत लेवल्स पे तोड़ने पड़ेंगे. पॉलिसी मेकिंग पे तोड़ने पड़ेंगे, फाउंडर्स में तोड़ने पड़ेंगे, एंड टू अ लार्ज एक्सटेंट VCs एंड द कैपिटल डिप्लॉयर्स में तोड़ने पड़ेंगे, बिकॉज इट इज़ गोइंग टू बी अ लॉट मोर कोलैबोरेटिव. सेकेंड इज, हाउ डू वी अंडरस्टैंड कि बाहर क्या हो रहा है. अगेन नोबडी गिव्स यू कंप्लीट एक्सेस ना. अगर आप कल स्टैनफोर्ड भी चले जाओ एज सेइंग कि मुझे जेन है, आई मीन तुमको वो पूरा थोड़ी समझाएंगे. So it is events like this where you try and hope that there's enough knowledge sharing.
You've got people from abroad coming in as well, right?
Yes. And for that reason, because again, it's hard to get speakers coming in from overseas on such a hot topic right now. So we said, like, Indian founders के लिए it's so expensive to travel overseas. Visas आसानी से नहीं मिलते हैं. And even then, like when you go to a different country, where let's say you go to Europe for one of these conferences, the worldview is much more Europe-centric there then.
Correct.
तो हमारे को फिर again you're on the sidelines because you can't fully say कि मेरे लिए क्या है.
Yeah, even when I look at tech Twitter और मैं कोशिश कर रहा हूँ, there is an AI conversation, I have to look at the CTOs of the companies, generally Indian, right? और उनकी भी बातें ना, they have to, कभी वो हिंदी में ट्वीट करते हैं ताकि वो उन अपने लोगों को भी समझ में आए, right, to make a few jokes, but generally their conversations are also very Europe and America centric. So definitely the AI conversation that I've been part of has been very entry level operators doing it. But what I found also interesting is when I was looking at the event, the schedule and catalog, the speakers, you're also getting people from the government. You're getting Amitabh Kant and you're getting like Sanjeev Sanyal, right? So you want them also to see what's happening. What's the idea?
I said, see, policy is going to play a very critical role in AI. Unlike again earlier, because we have to protect ourselves. There is data sharing norms that need to be clear because you need those large data sets to build these AI companies. And how do young founders get access to those data sets without creating any privacy issues? So there are lots of opportunities, but everybody needs to work together in the context of Gen AI. So अगर आप दुनिया में अभी कहीं भी देख लीजिए, इस in the last especially 4 महीने में, every country is doing their own AI conference because सबको डर है कि ये जो सोने की चिड़िया है ना, कोई और ना ले जाए. And it is a real fear. So to my mind, whether AI will do terrible things, of course, technology does things that the humans train the algo to do,
Sure.
right? So yes, of course, there's potential for great harm over here.
Hmm.
But what is a greater harm that all countries are very, very worried about is that nobody wants to be a digital colony. Everybody wants to be at the forefront. You know, it's almost as if race शुरू होने वाली है, तो if you're not at the start line ना,
Hmm.
तो बाद में catching up will become very expensive and almost impossible.
Right. Especially now we're at the precipice of how even Sam Altman वगैरह ने भी they've changed their stance from like अभी बहुत like they've gone full AI-centric and AI deep tech. The fact that the founder of one of the biggest AI companies जो innovation head कर रहा है, he's doing so many public appearances. So there's clearly like an acceleration that is happening.
No, obviously because you want to be front and center in people's imagination when it comes to Gen AI, because it is going to be a race for all the resources, right? The resources is capital, it's talent, it's access to research, you know, also thinking about new research, policy, data, compute. I mean, there are so many things that have to all come together for a country to be at the forefront, right? Which is why at New Delhi Slash we said like we need to bring all the stakeholders together, and it's important that everybody hears everybody. कि founders के क्या concerns हैं, what is it that they need from the government. You know, government should understand founders कि founders को क्या चाहिए. You know, capital deployers should understand कि यहाँ पे कितना hold period लगेगा for a company to mature, because these may mature quickly or they may flame out also quickly, so a lot of capital may also get extinguished over here. So how do we think about capital deployment? And in any country everywhere in the world, the signals have to come from the government, and then it's for the rest of the country to pick that up and run with it.
Right.
So वो जो cohesiveness चाहिए कि कैसे हम सब इकट्ठा काम कर सकें, and that is the outcome that we want out of this conference. And I think from the overall agenda, I think it's looking कि ऐसे ही होगा. And we hope that India does become a AI nation. We want India to be at the forefront, not to be a digital colony.
I would be very happy अगर मैं AI search करूँ और मैं Google पर news section में जाऊँ and there's a bunch of news where governments announce policies, Indian government announces policies around AI, like हम use करेंगे AI को, I don't know, like assessing how much money farmers make, stuff like that. Because I think that like even from private organizations, right? Like I know of people who are basically becoming solopreneurs because they figure out AI can run most of these things.
Exactly.
Yeah. In your daily life beyond ChatGPT, do you use any other AI?
I mean, right now it's so consumed by New Delhi Slash that I've not been able to play with too many tools at this point.
But you will have time at the conference to do that.
No. So I mean, I am also going to be a student at the conference. I'm going to be learning at the conference. I'm going to try and understand. And I think all of us, who've been part of this, organizing New Delhi Slash, I think the intent is the same. We are all now students in a sense, because it's something so new. It's something that's going to be so big. So how do we all harness it for ourselves? One is, of course, personal daily life mein, both again seen and unseen. So, of course, so much is already happening of the things that we are using, and we don't necessarily know that, what is the AI input into those sort of use cases. But even the seen aspects, and we have a tech fund called Rukum Sitara, so we will be deploying capital into AI companies and into deep tech companies. So, but I want to really be able to at least get a handle on like where are we all headed. And when I say where are we headed, I mean India is headed, because our core thesis has been Indian founders building for India. So we want to create wealth and technology in India for Indians. So that's been a core thesis, because we do believe that if wealth gets created in India, everybody gets better.
फायदा हमारा ही होगा.
सबका फायदा है, because consumption goes up, and that consumption happens here, largely happens here. So your tax base gets wider, deeper. So I think it's important for people who have an opportunity to do this. And they should do it. I mean, I think we owe it to India to build for India.
I would also say, especially students who are watching this, because largely I think after having spoken to lots of students, right, they follow tons of influencers online, but there is often little to no real world implementation on wo kaise manifest hoga. And I think if students get into this now in a physical setting, they can be the future AI-preneurs. Because abhi to all of the people like that are doing it are like, they're in the game. But if you've not even started the game and you already know the rules, right? Like the potential founders 10 years from now are going to be so different than the people pivoting to AI now, right?
Exactly. Which is why I think it's important to start building that community, that conversation, bring everybody under the same roof. Because see, बहुत सारी सब जगह छोटे-छोटे pockets में conversations हो रही हैं, ऐसा नहीं है कि नहीं हो रही हैं.
Yeah, it's on Twitter, LinkedIn, Instagram, everywhere.
But जहाँ पे सब आए, you know,
one big alignment call.
Exactly. So I think it's important, and the stakeholders have to believe in the potential of this country. अगर हम ही नहीं believe करेंगे इंडिया में, how can you expect somebody else to believe, right? I mean, we live here, we are Indians. अगर हमारे को ही लगे यार यहाँ पे कैसे हो पाएगा? And look, everything, and ये मैं बहुत बोलती हूँ, मैं यहाँ पे भी बोलूँगी, that even rocket science is not rocket science. ना rocket भी तो इंसान ने ही बनाया है, AI भी इंसानों ने ही बनाया है. तो मतलब चाहे वो इंसान अमेरिकन हो, इंडियन हो, आई मीन हमारे में भी उतनी अक्ल है, सो वी कैन ऑल्सो डू इट. ऐसा नहीं है कि नहीं हो सकता है. इंडिया में अब देर इज़ डेप्थ ऑफ कैपिटल. तो ऐसा नहीं है कि हमारे पास कैपिटल भी नहीं है, यू नो, एट अ नेशनल लेवल मैं बोल रही हूँ. तो वाई शुड वी गेट लेफ्ट बिहाइंड इंडिया?
हर जगह मैं सुनता हूँ इंडिया पे हम बड़े बुलिश हैं, इंडिया टॉप पे जाने वाला है. आप अपने सर्कल्स में डू यू फील इट, डू यू सेंस दिस ऑप्टिमिज्म?
See, when you live somewhere day to day, again, I'll use the same analogy that I did about parents, loved ones. Day to day, kitna bhi friction ho, you tend to complain more about the friction than you know, express your love or commitment to those loved ones, right? अब अपने माँ बाप को रोज़ तो नहीं बोलते कि हाँ मैं आपका बेटा ही रहूँगा ज़िंदगी भर. You don't make that commitment. You don't say कि I'll always be next to you. But
it's implied.
या बट आप फ्रिक्शन में आप जोर से चिल्ला दोगे कि भैया आज भी फिर से वही टिंडा बना दिया, करेला बना दिया, यू नो आई ब्लडी हेट करेला, क्यों बनाया फिर से? सो दैट बिकम्स योर फोकस. सो लुक, व्हेन यू लिव इन अ कंट्री, एंड अगेन इट्स ट्रू ग्लोबली, इट्स नॉट यूनिक टू इंडिया, एवरी कंट्री में सिटीजन्स फील सर्टन फ्रिक्शन पॉइंट्स. तो यहाँ पे भी फ्रिक्शन पॉइंट्स हैं, एंड पीपल ऑफ कोर्स विल डिस्कस दोज फ्रिक्शन पॉइंट्स एज वेल एज डिस्कस द ऑप्टिमिस्टिक पार्ट ऑफ इट.
श्योर.
But you know, optimism cannot be left to a few sort of lovely slogans. Each one of us has to also decide ना कि भैया मैं if I build here and मैं you know अगर चिकनी चुपड़ी बातों से फिसल ना जाऊँ and say अरे वहाँ पे
bye bye to my career.
मैं वहाँ पे जाके वहाँ पे इतनी जिंदगी आसान है. Every place has its upsides and downsides.
Sure.
So you've got to decide that, I mean, first decide for yourself that, look, I want to do something worthwhile with my life, with my career. Second is, you know, when you do something worthwhile for yourself, you then contribute to the larger wealth creation, like I said.
Yeah.
And that optimism has to be with the individual first also, is what I would say. I mean, you can't expect कि magically सब कुछ बहुत अच्छा हो जाएगा. होगा और नहीं भी होगा. मतलब you know, when one set of problems go away, a different set of problems will come, which we
that's life. Like the Frank Sinatra song.
Exactly. So if there is friction, it's okay. But optimism is a function of each one of us.
I love how you just always give very like thought out answers about the nature of reality. In another life, you must have been a philosopher.
I hope it's in this life.
we'll
has to be a philosopher more than anything else.
आप लोगों के सबकी ब्रांडिंग को ना नवल रविकांत ने वो कर दिया थोड़ा सा कि सारे VC से एकदम उभरते हैं, एक दो ट्वीट डालते हैं, ह्यूमन नेचर के बारे में चले जाते हैं. So but like before we end things off, I wanted to ask you if you can tell people like where can they follow your work and like tell more about the conference that you're hosting, the event.
Yeah. So the conference is called New Delhi Slushed. It's being hosted at the Oberoi Gurgaon, which is in the NCR region, and Masters Unit, which is across the road from the Oberoi Gurgaon. We've got 4 stages, which will all be running simultaneously. So you can imagine, I think we've got almost 100 speakers.
Damn.
Yeah. 100 speakers, of which I must mention, almost 45% are founders of young companies. Because हमने बहुत सारे founders से बात करी थी, and founders said we also want to talk to each other in a more formalized sort of setting. Ki what is it that you're building? What is it that I'm building? So that sharing, that building of community. So I think we're the only conference where founders are talking to each other at a separate stage. नहीं तो क्या होता है कि
नहीं तो उन्हें निखिल कामत के पॉडकास्ट पर राउंड टेबल बुलाना पड़ता है.
Exactly. So यहाँ पे, and these are founders who are just starting their journey of building their companies, their products. So it's a very, very rich sort of, I think, sangam of ideas and challenges that founders face, Then, of course, there are more experienced academics, there are other practitioners who've already built companies.
Also, C-suite executives from top public companies. Yeah,
exactly. We've got NVIDIA, senior leadership from NVIDIA coming. NVIDIA has become quite central to this whole AI boom.
Yeah,
because of
like it was to gaming. It still is to gaming.
Yeah, absolutely. So the idea was to bring everybody who's relevant to AI and deep tech under one roof, and we'll have some fun and we'll have some great conversations, both scripted and unscripted, because I think it's important for people to connect with each other. For me, this will be a success if people make enough connections. They go back and say, look, it changed something for me in a very fundamental manner.
You want your LinkedIn blowing up? You want your LinkedIn blowing up?
It's already blowing up.
No, for the attendees.
Yeah.
And it's on November 3rd and 4th, like you already said, at the Oberoi Gaon and Masters Union. People can check it out, right?
Yes.
Yeah. Well, it was बहुत मजा आया आपसे बात करके.
आपसे भी.
Thank you for inviting me to your office, and I can see the evening sunlight coming on.
Yes.
So perhaps it's time for another coffee for me.
Yes.
People can. I'm not going to plug in your LinkedIn because it's going to be flooded by several, but is there any socials that you yourself would like to plug, or people can follow your work?
I think New Delhi Slushed is the handle that we have across all the social media, different platforms, and people should go there and just come to the event and experience it.
Yeah, if you want to get a deeper understanding of AI deep tech in Delhi, हमारी बहुत सारी audience दिल्ली से भी है, और आप मुंबई से उड़ के आओ, मुंबई से भी आ जाना, और कहीं और से भी, you can come to the event. ठीक है, this was Dostcast, and I will see you all in the next episode every Tuesday and Friday at 12 p.m. Indian Standard Time. Don't forget to subscribe. Take care. Bye bye. Sayonara.